Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday morning. It's 10 o'clock. I'm Connie Myers. So this must be to 70 and beyond. We had a really fun party last night. It was my friend, the coffee chef, the celebrity coffee chef, Brian David. He had his 73rd Emmys tour, and he cooked for some incredible meals. So what you're seeing behind me is the leftovers at the table and everything. So I thought this would be a good spot to talk about this, especially today. I'm talking to you out of my book, Crystalline Moments, and we're going to be talking about what really happens when you win the lottery. And if you've been lucky enough to win the lottery, congratulations. My friend Donna Meekin told me this story when I wrote the book originally. So, but first, I kind of want to recap. The last time I talked, we talked about anything in my book. It was Ginny DeHenney and how she'd lost two children, and what the gift was that what we can show that we can overcome grief and find joy in our crystalline moments. So once again, crystalline means sparkly clear. So they're moments of clarity. And she knew instantly what she was going to do when her son was on life support, and they started the foundation, and what she's done since her daughter died 9 years later, and what she and her husband have done has created an incredible foundation. It's helping thousands of kids and young adults all over the Canada. They have clinics from coast to coast in Canada, and a wonderful thing she's done. So today we're going to talk about something totally opposite. We're going to talk about what happens when you win a $34.5 million lottery. It was actually the second largest lottery at the time I wrote the book. It was the second largest lottery that had ever been won in New York State. Her name is Donna Meekin, and I don't remember, let me see here. Her husband's name is Ed. And we've all heard stories about people, losing everything when they win the lottery, and pretty soon they're more broke than they were before. Well, the good news is that is not what happened to Donna and Ed. However, Donna's life did change dramatically, and she went through a lot. So her and her husband had been together since they were 12. She was 12 and he was 15. They had just celebrated their 30th wedding anniversary. When you're with somebody that long, you can instantly know what's going on with them, right? You feel it instantly. Even you don't even have to be together that long, you're going to know it. In 1990, Donna had started working in real estate. One of the first events she attended was an awards luncheon. She had borrowed a suit because she had done all she had was mommy stay-at-home clothes, and so she didn't have any appropriate stuff. So she sat and watched people receiving all kinds of awards, and then they announced the Rookie of the Year. Up until then, she had politely clapped and she'd just been participating. But when she heard Rookie of the Year, her ears perked up. She thought right then and there, I want that award. Her desire for the recognition of being Rookie of the Year was a moment of clarity, a crystalline moment that would create a longing that she needed and a pivotal moment for her. She was sitting at the table with people who she didn't know and informed them that she was going to win that award the following year. She had no idea what she needed to do to earn it, but she declared to everyone that she would be the recipient. And she told her manager the next day her intentions. What his comment was not what you would really expect. He says, but you don't want to show properties, and I can't work with someone that way. So she decided that she would make Rookie of the Year by selling to first-time home buyers. It is one thing to put a vision in your mind. It's another thing to put the action into words. We always talk about when you're creating a vision, what was the one thing you can do with what you have right now to take that first step? In her words, a dream is a dream, but you need to take action. The following year, she was Rookie of the Year, and we'll pick up her story in our conversation then. So, what was your career like before winning the lottery? I asked. I knew real estate was something I could do. I wanted to contribute to the real estate community. I was in the top 1% of the real estate agents in New York State when I became a trainer and a coach. I loved doing this work. I was contributing to my family and living with a beautiful home in Long Island. So I asked her, what happened the day that you won the lottery? On February 12th, 2007, I was scheduled to talk to a client when my phone rang. It was my husband. When I picked up the phone, he said, Donna. And I grabbed the wall. He was trying to communicate, but I'm not listening. I could hear something behind his voice. When you've lived with someone as long as we had been together, you can read one another's mind, which is absolutely true. I could tell when he walked into the house whether or not he was in a bad mood. I'm searching in my head in that moment. What is going on? He's trying to ground me by saying my name over and over. Go to the computer and go to the New York State Lottery site. Eddie, cut it out, I demanded. By the time I got to the computer, my hands were shaking so badly I'd cradled the phone under my head. My husband's entire life, he said he was going to win the lottery. It had never been my desire. I clicked on the lottery site, and I read him the numbers. He says, we have all 6 numbers. And he asked how much we won. I said, it's 34.5 million, and we're the only winner. Don't talk to anybody. I'll call you back, and then hung up. And I'm standing in my living room. I don't know what to do with myself, so I pace and pace and pace. I go running upstairs to my son, Christopher, who was 14. He was playing World of Warcraft on his computer. Daddy just called and said we won the lottery, I told him. He looked up at me and goes, oh, and returns back to his game. I called my other son, Eddie, who was 18. Mom, what's wrong? He said immediately. My son was very connected to me, so he instantly knew what was happening and going on. I'll be home in a minute, he promised, and it takes him 10 minutes, and I'm wearing a hole in the floor. By now, Eddie Jr. pulls into the driveway, opens the front door, and says, Daddy won the lottery, he said knowingly. I called my husband now, who was at the lottery office, where he'd been waiting in line. Just as I called, he had finally gotten to the front desk, where a woman was checking the numbers and confirmed that they had won. I told him I needed to talk to him, and he handed the phone over to the woman behind the desk. Can you tell me this is true? Yes, she is the second largest winner in the New York State lottery history ever. Eddie got back on the phone, and I asked if I could tell someone. He says, call my mother and my sister and tell them to come over, but don't tell them why. I hung up the phone, but I didn't listen to that. I didn't call them, but I jumped in my car to go to my girlfriend Kathy's house. She saw me jump out of the car from inside the house. Now, Kathy's son and my son are best friends. She immediate reaction was thinking something was wrong. She came running out of the house while I bolted up the stairs, and her husband behind her. What's wrong? She yells. Are the kids fine? I said, yes, they're fine. We won the lottery. Kathy and Frank had been our best friends for many years, but her husband said, I need to talk to Ed first. Just then, Ed called. So Frank grabbed a bottle of wine, and he couldn't pour fast enough. I just grabbed the bottle and chugged it down. Not that much, but then I went into shock. I heard loud noises, buzzing noises. I was talking and giddy, but the buzzing was going on. I told him I needed to line up something and went home. Then I called my mother-in-law and Ed's sister. I can't tell you why, but you need to show up. And they both were panicking why they had to come over. 3 months after we won the lottery, we took 40 people to Disneyland. Now, what happened to me in the next 24 hours after hearing the news was my hygiene went out the window. I couldn't comb my hair or take a shower. I would pick up my toothbrush and toothpaste. I knew they went together, but I couldn't connect the dots. 3 days later, friends were coming by and telling us how happy they were for us. The house looked like a tornado had gone through it. We would just sit and walk like zombies. 4 days later, I was now drinking 6 bottles of water every 30 minutes. We called the doctor because I couldn't quench my thirst. He says, if you don't stop, he said, you are going to drown. I wasn't allowed to drink any more water, only to have a tablespoon of Gatorade every 15 minutes. For me, being a commission-based realtor, I understood that you put money in the bank. You could take money out. It never occurred to me you could just go to the bank and take money out. My husband felt like he was living his destiny. For me, it had never been in my realm of reality that this would ever happen. Everybody sits around the table and talks about what they would do. I bet you've done that. What was your earliest memories, I asked, of the first few days of winning? I would say my earliest memories of the first days after winning the lottery were pure dread. I felt like the hammer was going to drop. If something this good happens, something bad is going to happen. Like the sole survivor of a plane crash. Well, you can just imagine that, right? You can imagine what it would be like to be the one person that wins the lottery like that. I really thought, why me? Haven't we thought that before? Not my neighbor or someone else. I honestly struggled with that for years. I'm not saying it didn't have joy, but the joy was robbed from me from the feelings of being unworthy. It was 5 years almost to the day of winning the lottery, February 2012. I woke up and I said, I'm going back into real estate. It was as if somebody had talked to me in my sleep. That happened to me when I decided I was going to stay in Vegas instead of going back to Portland. I felt, oh my God, I woke up and I didn't make that decision. The decision was made for me in my sleep. I was perfectly clear I was getting back into real estate. It was definitely a crystalline moment. My happiest had been in being a real estate agent and a coach. It was my life. I'd been taken off the whole plan I had for myself. For me, the lottery had hijacked the life I had been heading toward. I felt out of control and in a sense that I was not the person manning the ship anymore. Haven't we all at one point or another felt like we were out of control? Now I could be a coach. I had the luxury of doing it by design. I wouldn't have any predetermination of financial gain about it. Money was not the reason to go back. It was my self-worth. And really, it's really important that when we're looking into what we're supposed to be doing with our lives and designing our lives, it's not about the money. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, the money will show up. What was it like when you made that decision, and what was the experience like? It was like this little voice, she says, telling me to go back coaching. I loved coaching. I called a gentleman that I used to train for. He told me that 2012 was not a good year to start a coaching business. Agents didn't have money for anything, and coaching had dried up. However, he did let me agree to have me come into one of his training classes. There were 75 agents there, and I was ranked top 2% in New York, a real estate agent. So just maybe I knew something about real estate. Also, do you think I could keep my mouth shut if I loved coaching? So, of course, I can't keep my mouth shut, and the trainer had to introduce me to everyone. He told the agents about my awards and accolades. At the end of the day, people were coming up to me and saying, "I'll pay you to coach." The next day, she went to another location and did it again. So she had more clients than she could possibly handle. She says, the thing of it is, I'm not working from any kind of fear of loss. So the opportunities are flowing to me to live the life of my dreams. All this wonderful business coming toward me. That is exactly what happens when we are living our life by design. When we're living our life by design, things just show up in our life, and it keeps us moving. Those crystalline moments keep us going. As long as we listen to that inner voice and follow that direction, then we will be moving forward. When we start using our ego or our brain, then things kind of go haywire. I'm in this room now, president of a training company, and I'm watching the speaker on stage. I'm having a crystalline moment again. You could get up on stage and speak to people, it said. It had never occurred to me. All the conventions I had been to in my life watching keynote speakers, the feeling that came over me was exactly the same the feeling that I had when I made Rookie of the Year. You mean there's an industry for speakers? I said to other people. They looked at me like I was nuts. I'd gone to the summit in the capacity of a real estate trainer and left knowing that what I really want to do. So as we're going through our lives and we're stepping in more and more into the design of our lives, we are going to figure out what's really next. Like what I'm doing right now with crisis knowledge management. My entire life, since my very first career as a leader, was training me to do what I'm doing today. And that happens when you are really thinking about your design and you're staying in the present moment. She called her husband and she said, I know what I want to do. I want to be a speaker. I asked her, what did you get from going through all of this? What did we get from going through that? It's very much in line with life. That's what resonated when I read your email about crystalline moments. There really was an exact moment when I said, that's my path. There always is. There's always that moment that says, that's it. That's what I want to do. Why didn't I see it before? I'd done everything I could to put all the action steps in place to get where I am right now. On Monday, I resigned the real estate training company, and on Tuesday, I joined the National Speakers Association. Then, just like a little kid, this happens to every one of us, we start having self-doubt, right? She said, I was in Indianapolis, and I called my husband, and I said, I'm a fraud. I'm not a speaker. And he said what he said before when I told him I was going into the real estate business. This is going to be great for you. But I wasn't feeling it. When I started in real estate, he had said I was going to be great then too. Sometimes we need someone outside of ourselves to see things we don't see in ourselves and can support us on our path. That's why you need to have a mentor, and that's why you need to have a coach that is not a family or close friend. You need somebody that has perspective outside of you. What I find interesting is that it took you and your husband winning the lottery to find your path. And it didn't have anything to do with money, right? Well, it did, because she didn't have to worry about money when she started, but immediately she started making more than she would have ever dreamt. Donna says, yes, and I'm so happy to see that my destiny has brought me. I remember saying out loud that this being just a lottery winner is not what I want to be. I would never have developed into anything more than I what I was before the lottery. I was passionate about coaching people, and now it is on such a bigger scale. That for me is worth its weight in gold. And so there's several lessons we've learned from what she's gone through. And winning the lottery doesn't have to be winning the actual lottery. You could be winning the lottery. I've said this over and over again. When my husband passed away, it was the greatest gift he ever gave me. And not because I didn't love him dearly and we had a wonderful marriage. It was because I had to move forward. I had to change my life. And him passing let me do what I'm doing today. I would have never written this book. This would have never happened. Her crystalline moment of deciding to go back to real estate could be equated to making a decision and finding a new or even better job. Right now, during the pandemic and that, there's a lot of people changing jobs or realizing that the old job that they had and now they've opened up their own business. It might have been something that's always been a passion of theirs. That's what crystalline moments help you do. And then if you follow those crystalline moments, they're going to continue. Her crystalline moment decided to go back to real estate could be equated to making a decision to find a new, even better job. Her dream to get back to helping real estate agents improve their business and now lives. Now she could do it without the paradigm of worrying about money. The one thing that happens when we start finding opportunities in our crystalline moment is that we expand and grow even larger. We bloom even bigger and better. If Donna and her husband had never won the lottery, she would not be living the life of her destiny. Just like if my husband hadn't passed, I wouldn't be living the life of my destiny. This is the same as what Jenny told me after losing her 2 children. Those moments had not happened. We would not be living the lives we have designed for ourselves. You absolutely can do the same. Whatever those crystalline moments are for you, and they could be something as tragic as Jenny's losing 2 children 9 years apart, or as magnificent as winning a $34.5 lottery. Or they could be something just a thought. They could be as little as they can possibly be. And those crystalline moments open up opportunities. There's always a gift or an opportunity, no matter how terrible or how wonderful they are. Once you take that first step, then the next step shows up. And the next step shows up. And pretty soon, you're leading your life by design, by your instincts, and not by your brain and your ego. Because Donna stepped into her crystalline moments and was in alignment with what she is supposed to be doing, she attracted clients that she would have never attracted before. It's not only important to listen to that little voice, but follow where it is leading you. If you start thinking with your brain and you're not listening to your inner voice, which I used to argue with my inner voice, and terrible things happen. Horrible things happened to me. One time, I was taken for $250,000 because I didn't listen to my inner voice. So you would think I would have learned from that, but no, I didn't. It took my husband passing and not being able to go back to that old life. So pay attention to those. As with Dawn, it's not one giant leap, but little baby steps. That's why I always talk about make sure you celebrate your little steps, your baby steps. 3 successes you had the day before, even if it's as simple as just you got out of bed. And then be grateful for 3 things, because that changes the chemistry of the brain. So now the brain is looking for more successes and more things to be grateful for. All right, well, as with Dawn, it's not only one giant leap, but little steps in being open to new opportunities until you get to that point. I know what I want to do. When you say those words, you vibrate, you feel lighter, electrified. You just know. That is the power of a crystalline moment, and one that will lead you in your life. Just like Donna, fears will pop up. Remember that fears are nothing more than a reminder. This is really important. A reminder that you're reaching the edge of the life you've always known. Fear is opportunity. All right. So next week I'm 1 week away from my 73rd birthday, which is why I started this in the first place. I think I'm going to have a special message next week because it's just before my birthday. And but we'll be back. The next story I'm going to read to you about that is Karen's story. And her quote is, the only way to go from victim to achiever is to become committed. So we'll be talking about commitment week after next. Anyway, I hope that you have a beautiful week and that you are absolutely living your crystalline moments, following the gifts and the opportunities in every single one of them, because that's how you live your life by design. All right, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you again next Saturday on To 70 and Beyond. Bye, everybody.